Well, first of all, thank you both for joining us today, Mark and Thomas. Just to start, I'm going to just give a brief introduction of each of you for the audience before we get started. So first we have Mark Effingham. Again, Mark, thank you for joining us. Mark is the Deputy CEO of UK Biobank. Mark joined UK Biobank over 8 years ago, initially as a Chief Information Officer, but taking on more operational responsibilities as a Chief Operating Officer in 2018, and then more recently as a Deputy CEO, a position he has served in since 2020. Mark brings broad experience of technical strategy, IT delivery, and domain expertise in health informatics and big data, having spent nearly 20 years in industry prior to joining UK Biobank, working for IBM in a variety of business development, consulting, and technical delivery roles. Trained as a nuclear physicist with a specialism in computational methods, including Monte Carlo simulations, Mark has always maintained a strong connection to science and academia. Previously an honorary teaching fellow at the University of Manchester, Mark has taught business and IT architecture at Manchester Business School. He remains a chartered IT professional and fellow at the British Computer Society and holds a PhD and master's from the University of Birmingham. Thomas Laur is the CEO of DNAnexus. Mr. Laur brings more than 25 years of international experience leading software, data, and services companies in the healthcare space. Most recently, he served as the EVP and President of the Technology-Enabled Services Division at Change Healthcare. Previously, Mr. Laur was President, Healthcare at SAP, holding end-to-end responsibility for the company's global healthcare business. Early in his career, Mr. Laur served as both the CEO at Sutherland Healthcare Solutions and Cognizant Healthcare Ventures, where he focused on incubating new business models and scaling operations. At DNAnexus, Thomas's leadership focus is on platform innovation and customer experience. Again, thank you both for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
So your first question will be, you both sit at the heads of your organizations. And so I'd love to, just hear how you articulate what exactly your organizations do. What is your mission? What are some of your most proudest accomplishments? And how do you actually think about the business today? But before we jump into that, the first question will have to be something a bit more fun. So, Mark, what is your favorite karaoke song?
My favorite karaoke? Well, I make a good point of actually not doing karaoke as much as possible. Although I did do it at our Christmas party last year in UK Biobank. My song that we did, and my favourite song, stems back to the first concert I went to as a young lad, probably about age 14, and it was the Proclaimers, which is a Scottish band who have a very, I won't even try and repeat it here, but they have a very catchy number called I Will Walk 1,000 Miles. So that was my favourite song, and I did that this year. I'm sure there's a video circulating around somewhere.
We'll have to pin that video to this video.
Do we have a mic here for you? Well, mine, Asha, despite popular belief, I am not really a karaoke animal at all. But I would say that my flavor these days is around country music. And I've had the pleasure to go to a country music concert by Chris Stapleton with my wife and friends recently. It was the last concert I attended, and I really enjoyed it. And I think in a past life I must have been a cowboy. So I would say anything from Chris Stapleton would work.
That sounds wonderful. So maybe we'll start with you, Thomas, sure, and giving an overview of DNAnexus, major initiatives, and proudest accomplishments.
Yeah, I mean, look, DNAnexus, in a few words, started about 15 years ago. Really has achieved, I think, proeminence in our space of bioinformatics over the past 15 years. And today the platform really occupies a central zip code of precision health. And our company is really in the business from a vision standpoint of making precision health a reality, really, and participating and supporting all of the bioinformatics multimodal work that our customers are doing across the continuum of healthcare, from diagnostic to therapeutic protocols, drug development, drug regulation, and also any type of large-scale programs like biobanks or population health. So we're in the business of trying to improve lives for patients around the world. In terms of proudest moments, plenty of proud moments in the past, but also, we're trying to architect many of those in the future. I mean, I would say just because you're here, Mark, but I would say the partnership with UK Biobank, in our perspective, is something that we're really, really proud of, the entire firm. And, what has been achieved in terms of scale, in terms of impact, we'll talk about this today here. I mean, it's spectacular, and we feel privileged to have had the benefit and the right and the permission to try to assist the UK Biobank on their journey.
Good. Mark, I'll give you the same question.
So UK Biobank's quite an interesting organisation. I guess its vision at its core is to create a resource that will enable scientific discoveries that will improve future health. And it's really built on this kind of altruistic endeavour of 500,000 participants from all across the UK who joined this study best part of 20 years ago. They get absolutely no return themselves. They contributed their time. They gave information about themselves, their health, their lifestyle. They provided a number of biological samples and physical measures, really to create the basis of this resource that researchers all around the world can use to determine environmental, lifestyle and genetic drivers of many diseases that affect us in later life. Those participants consented to have their health followed over time, so we link through to healthcare records across the UK, so we can follow their health outcomes. And they also gave us consent to go back to them to ask them to do new things which we've been doing since recruitment completed in 2010, whether that's web-based questionnaires, whether that's taking part in an imaging study where people travel up to 7 hours. We've had people from the Isle of Skye come down to Newcastle to spend 4 or 5 hours with us in an imaging centre, going through a whole range of very detailed imaging measures. And again, they get absolutely no return. It's all about generating this research resource for the scientific community to use. And what we see today is it is an open science resource. It's been used by researchers all around the world, both industry and academic, UK, kind of non-UK, and we work with everybody on the same basis. We don't do research ourselves. We see ourselves as effectively the builders of a resource that the research community can use, and it really is the findings, the discoveries that the scientific community can produce, which is the kind of the end result. Proudest moment, I guess, is the progress we've made over the last kind of 10 years. I've been with the organisation for 8 years. My proudest moment is probably participation in the work to sequence all 500,000 participants, starting with kind of exome sequencing led by Regeneron, but then more recently to do whole genome sequencing on a scale that just hasn't been done anywhere else before. And we ran that program through the pandemic, working virtually with kind of partner organisations in Decode and Sanger, and generated petabytes worth of data that's now available to researchers to bring their ingenuity to drive these new discoveries.
Yeah. And speaking of the whole genome, that whole genome data is available only on the UK Biobank Research Analysis platform. As you say, UK Biobank has been going for over almost a couple of decades now. In 2020, UK Biobank selected DNAnexus to be the research analysis platform for all of this data. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about why the platform was even thought of as an option, and then also sort of how and why DNAnexus was chosen.
So it's a really good question. And I think this comes down to this key principle around democratization of data. So again, I think it's been core to Biobank's model about having this non-preferential access to the research community. I say we engage with industry and academic, UK, non-UK on exactly the same basis. And that's been really important. When I joined the CIO, I think the data set of that size was probably a small number of terabytes, largely driven by the imaging data. If you kind of cycle back to 2010 when we finished recruitment, you probably could have fitted the entire biobank data resource onto a USB key. And in those days, how you make these data accessible to researchers was quite straightforward. We had this kind of download model where researchers could download de-identified data within the scope of a material transfer agreement, and where they could do their research, return their findings, publish their papers. And that model worked tremendously well. But with the advent of genotyping, so turning DNA into genotyping and imputation measures, and then as you start to look at the exome sequencing, now we're getting into the kind of petabyte scale, and that download model just can't continue. And it's really important that these data get put into the hands of kind of all researchers, whether you're a researcher in an academic unit in Africa or a very well-resourced kind of industry kind of party in, say, the US. So that's where the platform really came into being. The need that off the back of the whole genome sequencing program, where we knew we were going to be generating more than 15 petabytes of data, actually, as we find now, much more. We needed a platform which allowed researchers to actually come and use the data in situ. We didn't have anything like that. And that's when we went to look to who can actually partner with us to develop that capability and to scale with UK Biobank as it grows into the future. And that's how we formed our relationship with DNAnexus.
That's great. And so the platform has been going since 2021 is when it sort of launched to UK Biobank approved researchers. And this is something that DNAnexus has been running for the last 2+ years. Thomas, do you want to talk about what that platform has meant to DNAnexus and the impact that we've seen on the business as well as sort of the research community?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, when you're trying to change the world, you want to associate yourself with people who are like-minded, and it became pretty clear to us at DNAnexus early on that the UK Biobank was on an amazing trajectory, pretty unique, of having truly a global level type of impact. So there was a desire to really associate ourselves with that aspiration and try to support it. When I think about the journey of building and maturing the platform to support the UK Biobank, what I think we've achieved really is getting to the next level of scalability and robustness in the solution. A lot of the bioinformatics solution in the marketplace are really built around a research agenda, which is more narrow in scope, more narrow or lighter in terms of data footprint. And so they're not purpose-built for a large global scale. And I think this was certainly a big dimension of challenge as we set up the partnership and really started to kind of load up the platform with the data from the UK Biobank. So I would say the industrial grade in the platform was reinforced strongly by this partnership. And I think the whole notion of collaboration, right? I mean the idea of exposing data at a large quantum and allow basically free access or easy access to promote and take the barriers away of scientific discovery was achieved. We were able to build this model of high frequency research trading through the RAP, where you have this large amount of researchers from around the world in the range of 6,000 to 7,000 researchers now at this stage, really accessing, pulling the data and running their analysis. This notion of high frequency, high scale research collaboration environment is something that I think would probably not have been achieved without this partnership. And I see this as a derivative value of the partnership with the UK Biobank, which now can be returned to the rest of the marketplace as a product. So a lot of lessons learned along the way and a lot of good derivative value for the rest of the market.
Yeah. And Mark, maybe you can sort of touch on that sort of derivative value too. I've heard you talk about the impact of UK Biobank, but also UK Biobank and RAP together.
So I think, I guess the start of this relationship between the two organisations, you never quite know how these strategic partnerships are going to kind of work out. But actually, I think this has been a true partnership between the two organisations, and I think that's been built on this spirit of kind of openness, trust and credibility. And I think it is this kind of alignment in terms of your goals about what you're doing, in terms of how you're engaging with the market and the platform, and us needing a partner that we could work with to bring that kind of engineering capability to allow us to scale. But UK Biobank is all about kind of impact. And I think a lot of what we've done has been kind of first of a kind. And I think that's what I think we saw here around not just having a platform that can make available kind of genetics data and analysis capabilities, but being able to do that at scale, being able to do that in a way where it maintains that spirit of accessibility has been really important. And we've seen that through DNAnexus. And I think in the early days, and again, if you step back to kind of June 2020 when this partnership began, we were right in the middle of kind of lockdown, pandemic, and we were working together virtually. I don't think we met as a team until we'd actually gone well beyond delivery of the platform. But I think that true partnership or collaboration to kind of work together to figure out some of these challenges about how our model works, how we engage with researchers and to have something that scales, has just been so important. That's seen us through over the last 3 years. And I think to Thomas's point, we've now got a platform that has over 6,000 users who are actively kind of working in the platform. And we need to recognize it's a change program. It's about how do we move kind of researchers from their traditional ways of working to get them to appreciate the opportunity that cloud and platforms such as DNAnexus provide to help them kind of accelerate their research. They can do things so much faster. They don't have to spend time dealing with kind of all the administrative kind of setup, etc. They can really focus on getting that quick time to action on the research kind of findings. And that's what we're seeing through kind of the partnership with DNAnexus.
That's absolutely wonderful. And can you talk a little bit too about the number of publications or the scientific output that you've also seen too? I think that's always been really impactful to hear.
So I think this again stems back to that kind of accessibility. So I think it was probably back in 2017 when we released the genotype and imputation data. That's where I think we saw kind of researcher use kind of really grow. So we have over 30,000 kind of registered researchers working with biobank data, and it's almost exponential. So just year on year, that growth curve keeps on going, and we've always questioned ourselves: is this kind of a saturation? Are we going to get to some kind of plateau? And we've not seen that yet in terms of the user kind of interest. But that also then stems into the publications, and so we've now got over 10,000 peer-reviewed publications since Biobank launched in 2012. We're now at kind of several thousand a year. So again, we're seeing that kind of exponential kind of curve. It's really difficult to kind of pinpoint what are those kind of true stellar kind of findings that have really impacted health, but we have seen those already. So being able to identify that type 1 diabetes actually isn't just a childhood illness. It can actually emerge in adults, was discovered using UK Biobank data by researchers at the University of Exeter. What we've seen around the whole derivation of polygenic risk scores has just emerged from having this kind of data at scale. So I think the number of publications being generated is a really good measure of kind of interest, but it is looking at how those kind of findings are translating now into changes to healthcare policy and healthcare delivery, which is what we're starting to see.
Yeah. And one of the things that we see too, sort of with that, the number of publications, is it really seems to speak to that sort of democratization of access, right? And I think one thing that we deal with a lot is the balance between giving access to users, but also protecting the data. And so maybe Thomas, you can start talking a little bit about like how do we see that tension, or how do you experience that tension?
Great question, Asha. So there is indeed tension between ensuring an easy access to the data and at the same time maintaining security protocols and kind of where do you put the marker? That's the big question. DNAnexus, I think in general we benefit from the fact that we have this conversation with a broad scope of industry, whether it's pharma, diagnostic companies, regulators, or others. And so we see different philosophies. I think what's important here in the context of the partnership with UK Biobank is that we took security from the very get-go, very early on in the partnership, very seriously. And so we built this stack here, this platform really with security at the core of the key requirements. When I think about the biobank philosophically, I think it's very balanced. We take on this project, on the RAP, access, and really being true to democratizing the data very seriously, but at the same time, we don't take any shortcuts in terms of security. So I think in many ways, it's the right balance at this stage, even if it's a bit of a moving target. But I don't know if you would agree, Mark.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think you could have said it better, and I think it's recognizing that marker might move over time, and it is having that kind of constant kind of viewpoint. I mean, from our perspective, participants placed a lot of trust in UK Biobank in terms of the data they give us. We go to kind of extreme kind of lengths to protect, to de-identify. If you look at the brain imaging data. We collect T1 DICOMs, and we actually deface those images because technically you can create a mannequin-like kind of view. So we spend a lot of time thinking about what are the protective measures. And again, that was really important in terms of the relationship with DNAnexus. I think the strength and depth you have with your kind of platform, how it's been used around the world already, it provides a lot of kind of reassurance. I think we do see this kind of natural tension around we need to make sure that we're respecting the confidentiality, we're respecting the obligations to participants, but also it is about how do we make these data available to researchers, because that's where the kind of the value is. And we do see other resources who've taken a much more constrained model, and you don't see anything like the kind of research outputs that we're seeing now with UK Biobank. So it is a balance. I think it is making sure we're always keeping one step ahead of the curve. I think technology moves forward very quickly. If you look at kind of artificial intelligence, which I'm sure we'll get onto, it's making sure we've got a sense about where that's going and are we doing kind of enough to keep that balance right. So it's not a static position. I think it's something that we evolve, and again it provides reassurance to us in terms of, I think this is shared philosophy with yourselves about how we support that.
I think the point you make too, just about sort of the evolving landscape of technology, of data, of science and healthcare, they all sort of move, and now we're moving at an even faster pace. As you both sort of look forward and look at sort of the innovation sort of landscape, what do you see as sort of the next thing that's evolving that makes you really excited about sort of this partnership and also just in general sort of large data analysis?
So I don't know how you guys keep up, because that kind of landscape is changing so quickly.
So in our case, maybe to start, I would say we're recognizing that, innovation in our field is fragmented. It happens from, many different talented individuals in many different types of organizations. And in many ways, sometimes the smaller the organization, the more interesting the innovation, because they tackle really, with a lot of focus, some really complicated problems. So what excites me is to see basically the pace of innovation accelerating in our field. And try to embrace that innovation, which for us means basically really being an open platform where we welcome those innovators and they can kind of, live on top of the platform and, participate in our ecosystem. And as such, we've been really building and continue to strengthen what I think is, at this stage, one of the world's most, interesting set of partnerships for, innovators around the bioinformatics field. AI is obviously, a big field that we need to talk about. That's an interesting one. I think it could be highly disruptive in terms of, the computational side through large language models. It raises also a lot of different questions about, because we are in the business of, being custodian of very, very sensitive data. And so the question is, how do you not necessarily control, but how do you, kind of provide a bit of a framework around AI to make sure that, AI is deployed in the right way, really for the benefits of the patients. But I'm just overall excited by the fact that I'm seeing, this, the overall genomic and omics asset class becoming more and more of a standard across a continuum, from diagnostic to care, to research, to drug, clinical trials. I mean, it's just this world of precision health is happening, and that's incredibly exciting for us because we've been kind of waiting for this as a company for a while, and our dream is becoming true here. So it's really exciting.
So I think it's a great question, and to build on that, I mean, if we look at the biobank model, I say we are kind of the builders of this resource. We don't do research ourselves, and it's this kind of fairly unique approach to almost kind of crowdsourcing the research community. If you were trying to do research yourselves, you're going to be constrained by resources and ingenuity. This model allows kind of 30,000 researchers all around the world to be bringing their kind of creativity and insights. I think that's where the platform really kind of steps into its own, because it's giving the tools and capabilities to those researchers, whether they're in kind of well-resourced institutions or in kind of small academic organizations, where now they actually have access to this really powerful platform that allows them to kind of actually translate their thinking into kind of real outputs. And just, I mean, we see examples every day from the papers that are published, how people are using kind of DEXA images in kind of ways that were never imagined. I mean, these images are looking at kind of bone composition, but people are using to look at aortic calcification. And it really is about putting these kind of tools and capabilities in the hands of those who can really kind of use them. And I think that's where it has worked kind of really well. And it is part of this kind of change agenda around showing people the value and the way they can work differently. When they actually invest just a little bit of time, they really get it, and then they just kind of motor forward. And I think it is about how, therefore, to really unleash that capacity as we start to bring together these multimodal data sets. I think the real kind of innovation is going to come from how researchers kind of work across the genomics, the kind of the epigenetics, the proteomics, all the way through that kind of the whole end-to-end linked with all the health outcomes. So I think we are at kind of the start, if you like. Almost the first kind of 3 years is kind of the end of the beginning. We are really now going to see how together we can really empower this kind of research community to do kind of new and impactful things.
I think that's a good point too, because I think we've seen a lot of what the biobank as well as the platform has done. We've heard sort of why it's there, but as you sort of look out for UK Biobank, what do you see in sort of the next couple of years? We've seen the sort of next 5 years as sort of key milestones and what it's going to sort of entail moving forward.
So I guess from a UK Biobank perspective, we're a kind of a longitudinal population cohort study. This is all about following the health of individuals and trying to determine why some people go on to develop one disease or another. I think one of the things that we see real value in is being able to get these kind of longitudinal measures over time. So having collected all that data at baseline, inviting people back for kind of imaging, asking them to do web-based questionnaires. We're really keen to see how we can really maximise that engagement with participants over the next kind of 5 years to really get that kind of longitudinal focus. So could we get them to come back to do a full repeat of the baseline assessment? Can we collect measures that will help inform our understanding around healthy ageing and frailty, more insights into neurodegenerative disease? So I think there is a kind of a window of opportunity over the next 5 years that we're thinking about how to maximise that kind of scientific value. I think in parallel, we are a biobank. We collected all of this kind of biological sample, having done genotyping, exome and whole genome sequencing, having done proteomics on the first 60,000 participants, metabolomics on the whole cohort. We've still only used about 8% of the total biological material. And I think we're seeing lots of ideas come from the kind of research community about how to undertake kind of epigenetic assays at scale, how to look at single cell RNA sequencing. So I think over the next kind of 5 years or more, I think we're going to see more of these cohort-wide kind of assay projects come forward to help turn this kind of biological sample into kind of reusable, kind of it's digitizing sample into data that researchers can then use together. So I think this combination of collecting kind of longitudinal measures, more characterization of participant exposures, and then looking at how we translate that kind of biological samples into better understanding of the biological pathways. And I think that's where we're going to get to in kind of 5 years. And for that you do need to have then best of breed kind of capabilities to allow researchers to analyze all of these data sets together at the scale that I don't think any other organization is trying to address.
Yeah. And this is in many ways to build on what Mark is saying. I think this is where this partnership, beyond just the project itself, it's a little bit of a blueprint. It shows the way, like when you bring best-in-class capabilities around a common objective and you agree to learn together, like Mark was saying earlier during this interview. I mean, this is really where you can unleash the power of scientific and computational progress, which we have together. And so I think the magic here is really in the nature of the collaboration. I think it's the fact that we have people that are in many ways like-minded, are willing to work together, and that early on the UK Biobank and DNAnexus were able to create a little bit of this team of one spirit or culture that made a difference. And so I hope personally that for the benefit of many around the world that there will be many more collaboration like this one in different sectors affecting precision health for many.
I think that is one of the opportunities around UK Biobank is, our hope is that we will remain a kind of the preeminent biomedical resource for some years to come. But it is about how to build similar resources like UK Biobank, whether it's all of us in the US, FinGen, China Karaoke Biobank in China, and to get that kind of true kind of diversity, that true understanding of particularly genetic and kind of lifestyle drivers. And I think that's where it does start to open up challenges where I think, again, DNAnexus can really help about how to allow researchers to undertake analyses across these large-scale cohorts to really kind of unleash that kind of understanding that we're all looking for.
Yeah, I think that's great. Do you want to talk maybe about sort of the future of DNAnexus? I'm not sure if that's a part of it, but maybe what the next 5 years looks like.
Yeah, so let's talk about DNAnexus here. Well, we're gonna, we have really this aspiration, this objective that we're working towards to really strengthen our position as the leading enterprise platform for precision health. So we're going to continue to really embrace the multimodality of the data, of the platform capabilities. We're going to maintain really this placement that we have at the heart of precision health, serving diagnostic, pharma, biotech, regulators, biobanks, and med centers. We're going to study over the next 5 years a little bit more the connection between research and clinical care. That's going to be an interesting bridge that we're going to look at. We're going to go deeper into the pharma model, and we're going to stay very much, committed to population health programs and biobank, because that's where the large data sets really live. I think we're going to continue to innovate on our roadmap to stay very close to the pinnacle of computational progress and scientific discovery, which in many ways will be our challenge, because that's always difficult to time scientific progress, but we're going to try to stay really very close to the top of the apex and just continue to do good things. And the world that we're trying to enable is one that Mark was talking about, which is precision diagnostic, precision health, precision care becoming a reality for everyone. And once you're able to fully understand, basically the relationship between a gene quality attribute, a phenotypic attribute and disease implication, well, that's when you can really start, being a little bit more predictive in your healthcare diagnostic, and then far more precise and impactful in your therapeutic protocol. So we're hoping that we're going to contribute to change the world and improve it for people.
That sounds wonderful. And one of the things that's really unique about DNAnexus, it would be interesting to get your thoughts on this, is that it does actually host a lot of these sort of large population cohorts. And so as we think about bringing together data across different cohorts and getting more insights, is there a role that DNAnexus is looking to play there?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And you're right, great point. So we've built one of the dimension along which we built the platform is this idea of collaboration, secure collaboration, which, by the way, is a very nice byproduct of this relationship with the UK Biobank. So it's a bit of a gift that the UK Biobank project gave us. We are able essentially today already to kind of create a little bit of a federation of data nodes, those data sets, and connect them for projects. So to do cross data set cohorts. We believe that this is really a big part of the future, and that as we continue to offer this to the marketplace, that you'll see more interesting projects and collaboration between different types of researchers, but also different personas, not just bioinformatics resources, but we would like to basically to not just democratize access to the data, but democratize the exercise of bioinformatics to new resources like clinicians, geneticists, biologists. And so, we're envisioning and hoping to be able to kind of enable a future where you have those interesting cross-persona collaboration project, cross large data sets, and cross geographies and cross organization. And so, we're absolutely trying to, enable and support that reality in the future.
Great. Well, thank you both. And clearly, this has been an extremely productive and fruitful relationship and partnership for the last few years. Any parting words for us as we sort of close out?
I think for me, I would say, like Mark said, first a sentiment of gratitude for the partnership, and thank you for all the lessons learned and all the fun along the way. And as we discussed, I my parting words is that, I think the journey is just starting. Even if we've done so much and there's a lot of work already being accomplished, I think that the future is bright, and we're just starting the book here.
And echo that entirely. I think this kind of relationship between the two organisations, it's really well aligned. I think we are at the start. I think we have actually achieved so much already, but I think there's this huge opportunity for our two organisations to kind of partner together to show this kind of way of working for the future that becomes the standards for others to follow. I just see the huge opportunities in front as we think about how to bring environmental data, how to then marry it with social science data, with biobank, kind of traditional data, and I say for us to work together to really think about what are the things that will move the needle to really help enable researchers, and that will just pay dividends right the way through the stack. So again, our thanks to all our colleagues at DNAnexus for everything they've done to help us get to this point. But again, looking forward to the future, working together to take this kind of next phase as to what's the opportunity ahead of us.
Great. Well, thank you both. Thomas, thank you. Mark, thank you for your time, and really happy to be a part of this partnership, because I think it's helping not just each of our organizations, but all the participants and all the patients worldwide too. So thanks to both DNAnexus as well as to UK Biobank for all the work for patients on their behalf. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.